Oh, there we go. There we go. Now it's started. Getting after it, man. How we doing?
Fantastic. How are you?
Good, good. How was the day?
It was good. It just ended. I mean, it's actually not over. It's not over.
It's never
But
over.
it no, you know how it is. It's great.
This, this is a new setup for you. You got the headphones. You got the
Yeah,
mic.
you know what? I'll tell you right now. I did a something on this. It's interesting that this is called Riverside, this podcast platform or whatever it is. It makes me feel very comfortable and at home. But I would say I did this maybe yesterday or I think the day before. But I did it from my home and I did it with pods, and it just didn't flow. So as I was finishing up my last patient, I um, I sent somebody out. I said, "Go get me some headphones with a wire, with a speaker," and you're looking at the new and improved
This was
JMA.
just yesterday.
Just a minute ago, 2 days, like they got me two. They got me this one. Nothing to disclose. I don't know this one, and then
Yeah,
they
yeah,
got
yeah.
me this one. This is what I got. I don't think it's great, but this is what I'm using. I mean, it sounds great, and this I don't know. You tell me how I sound, but it's
It
working.
sounds it sounds pretty good. I mean, we're up to about 1995 now, I would say. So,
Dude, I'm gonna be 50 next month. Give me a little bit of a break.
what?
Yeah, 50.
Actually, I was looking for quick photos of you, and I found one from this might have been going back 20 years. Like your hair was cut like a buzz cut, super short.
Maybe,
Just a
maybe.
Google stock
Eh, eh,
photo.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah, things. Hair comes and I've had a man bun. I've had a like not quite a crew cut, but pretty short hair. I had the mullet in high school, which you guys don't even know
No,
about.
you did
Yeah,
not.
yeah, full mullet. I grew up on Long Island, full mullet. Yeah, it was
I
great.
grew up on Long Island too. We didn't have
What?
mullets.
You're like 20 years younger than I am. The kids today, though, I will tell you, the kids today, the kids say I have teenage kids. The guys have essentially what I would consider front mullets. Their hair is long and down, and they can't see at all, and they just have hair in front of their face and short in the back. Doesn't make sense to me, but
I've been seeing it where it comes out almost like a duck bill and then it
yep,
goes back.
yeah, yeah,
I've,
yeah,
I've been
yeah,
seeing that. I was
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
say I was glad you pointed out you saw the Riverside. This is the second time I did like a test run the other day, but this was like the opening where I'm trying this out. I got some new equipment.
Yeah.
We're here. We're on.
You
I'm here with you.
you
This is
you
great.
sound great. You sound wonderful. What's the mic?
This is just it's like a Japanese brand. $50. $50 Amazon. It arrived in 2 days. You can't beat that.
That's impressive. No, no, no. You can't beat that. Are we live? Like, is this a live thing or this is not live?
So I did put in a link for people to join. So Riverside is cool. You know how Zoom, it's like you have the speakers, the host, and then you have
Yeah.
like the audience. Riverside is cool because you have speaker, you have guest speaker, and then you have audience.
Okay.
So I put the audience link up, but you have the guest link. Megan has the guest link, and then obviously we both have the guest links, and then went from there. Yeah, so I mean, it should be live. It's not live on YouTube. I don't have it live on Instagram, but it's live
Okay.
on Riverside. So
Okay. So, I mean, ultimately, you will post this and you'll do a whole thing with it, right?
yeah, yeah, I was
All
going
right.
to post
All
it
right.
to YouTube podcast. We'll
Dude, I'm
see
so excited.
everywhere.
It's great. I can't wait. I'm going to be famous. So good. So
I'm
good.
trying to be like you, Doctor Auerbach.
Come on. Come on. You got
So
this. We're
let's
going to take it
start.
to
What
the
was
next.
this? I
Go
just
ahead.
saw on your story today. You just posted a new opening of a facility. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah. A couple of years back, we opened we acquired a second location in Edison, New Jersey. It's like central New Jersey. And we were working out of a great but somewhat antiquated office for a couple of years. The office was originally owned by a guy named Michael Kleiman, who is like a giant at Amos and in New Jersey in oral surgery as well. And he actually does our chart compliance right now. He's since retired from clinical practice. But
Mm.
basically, we worked with this amazing company, Medical Dental Build, and they Jeff Silverberg and his team did an amazing job. The building is about 4,000 square feet. We have six outfitted ops there, two surgeons working out of that location, and it's it I think of it as kind of the premier oral maxillofacial surgery facility in New Jersey. We have one similar in Englewood. We're about to build one in our West Orange location, but they're they're large, advanced, efficiently run. It's not a Riverside commercial, although I hope to some degree it is. But I mean, it's basically it's an exceptional facility. It really is great.
Say, it looks pretty clean from the pictures I saw. I scrolled through a little bit there. It's looking pretty clean. It's looking smooth.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
well
great.
done. Did you
Thank you.
design it?
I'm definitely part of it. It's funny now that we have as many locations as we do. I have a woman, Lynn Caritas, who was introduced to me. She's was the wife of a dentist, and she is an interior designer. She did my first office. She has been amazing for us, and it's all the finishes are essentially the same now. It's just a matter of figuring out the layout and all that. We work with Benko; they supply all of our stuff, and we've been working with them for I don't know, 20 years, and they've done a great job for us. And yeah, I mean, I'm crazy. I'm like an attention to detail. I see every little thing.
You have to be.
I never negotiate price ever. I always negotiate. I always basically say I won't negotiate your price. You're going to tell me what you want me to spend, but I'm going to see the millimeter or the degree, the angle. I'll look at the miter and I'll be like, you're off by a degree or two. And obviously, as a surgeon, you got to be focused on the details. And I think that patients pick up on that. I think I always say like attention to every detail implies attention to any detail, right?
Mhm.
Or the other way around. Basically, if you're paying attention to the quality of the toilet paper, you're probably going to pay attention to the angle of your implant. I mean, it's just basically the way I see
So
it.
you're telling me you have the most expensive toilet paper in the game? That's
We
what you're
don't mess
telling me.
around. I'm saying we don't mess around. 2-ply, 3-ply. I go with 9-ply. Yeah, 9-ply.
Nine ply. You're in and
But
out. Two
yeah,
swipes. That's it. Two
that's
wipes.
it. Easy stuff.
That's awesome. That's good stuff. And congratulations. I mean, Max is now open, the surgical specialist, right? Like, so now
Yep.
you're kind of really getting to you just upped a notch, like big time.
Yeah.
So now you are CEO of that, correct?
Co-CEO. Yeah. So I'll explain what Max is. So, I started Riverside Oral Surgery in 2007. We grew it to a number of practices and consolidated it down. We have 9 Riversides now. We had been talking, we were pretty well positioned in New Jersey. At the time, we had 12 locations, 2 in Edison, 2 in Livingston. So again, we consolidated those practices. That's why we have 9 now. And we were spoken to by like every DSO, anyone who was looking to make an investment in oral maxillofacial surgery, multi-specialty groups, like the stuff you see on the journal and all that kind of stuff. And none of those situations made sense to me. I vowed never ever to sell my practice that I worked so hard to build to a general dental DSO. I just didn't think it was in my
Why?
best
Why? I
interest.
respect that. Why?
Yeah, why? Because I think oral maxillofacial surgery is a very special specialty. I think it is the best specialty in medicine or dentistry, period, in healthcare. And I think general dentistry has been to some degree commoditized, and I think it's an unfortunate thing for the population at large. I think it's unfortunate for the younger dentists, and I think it's listen, it's been a pretty good business for these guys, the private equity guys over time. But I don't think that there's the same type of clinical leadership within many of the general dental DSOs. Listen, I mean, some of these businesses are tremendous, and these guys know much more than I do about big business. But for me, it was very important to stay true to what was important, which is the delivery of clinical care, excellent outcomes, patient experience, these kinds of things. And I think that we as dental specialists, dental medical specialists, surgeons, whatever, that we understand this in a different way. So I vowed never to sell to a general dental DSO. So that was off the table to me from the very beginning. And then it was like these larger, already well-established kind of national oral surgery brands like US Oral Surgery or Beacon or Paradigm or any of these larger groups that had been in existence. And to me, I really didn't feel like for us, it worked to be just like a plug and play, to get acquired by this big thing, and really not have a seat at the table or a voice to talk about like where we're going and why certain things should be. And frankly, I thought I did things pretty well. And I think to not have a voice would have been something that wouldn't have worked for me, to come in and just, take teeth out all day. I also didn't really understand how endodontists vis-a-vis endo one, I'm like ripping everyone now, which is horrible, but basically I didn't understand how endodontists they say like your specialty is our specialty. I think endodontists are exceptional at what they do. In fact, some of them, the best ones, practice right here in northern New Jersey and in the city. Um, but the fact of the matter is that I think oral surgery and endodontics are different specialties, and I think it's okay that we're different specialties and we functionally are different, and we look at things a little bit differently. So I went about finding outside investors who believed in our vision, um, and I partnered with Oral Surgery Group, 3 offices, 6 surgeons down in central New Jersey, and we basically formed a platform that was designed to support oral maxillofacial surgeons, led by oral maxillofacial surgeons, with a clinical advisory board that is only oral maxillofacial surgeons, meaning all of the clinical decisions are 100% ours, that there's autonomy there, that the practices maintain their independence because all of healthcare is local. You can scale only so much, meaning you can scale to 1 million practices, but the culture of an individual practice needs to be maintained. The way that the practice speaks to and relates with their referring doctors needs to be maintained. The population that you serve in any one geographic location is different than a different population. You can't just do everything in a vacuum, assuming that just because it contributes to EBITDA or whatever it is, that it's better, because it needs to be slightly different in every situation. There's so much nuance that goes into practice.
Of course, of course. And
Yeah.
now, are you solely oral surgery? Because you kind of didn't
So
define that in the name.
yeah, solely oral surgery. So it's Max Surgical Specialty Management. Max as a nod to maxillofacial.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we have the full scope. We have multiple fellowship trained surgeons. Basically, every subspecialty is part of what we do. We have head and neck, we have cleft and craniofacial, we have cosmetics, we have, I think maybe I've said this to you, we have a young guy who's doing a TMJ fellowship out in Arkansas. We have,
Mm-hmm.
we focus on literally everything. We've got guys with a ton of experience on the state board, ton of experience at Amos, guys like myself who do, more dental alveolar than probably most. And I think that like we all have these like complementary skill sets, but a common vision and a very significant pride in what we do. I mean, we love, I mean, maybe it comes through with Bloody Tooth Guy. I mean, I love oral surgery. I love it. I think it's great. People say to me, like, why are you still practicing? You've got all these practices. Like, what are you doing? I mean, I would never stop. I don't, there's no purpose in me to stopping oral surgery. I love doing it, love working with patients. Some of the day-to-day stuff gets a little frustrating at times, but basically, I love doing what I do.
Of
Love it.
course, I
Yeah.
respect that so much. One, that you're taking ownership over the space. You're not just letting someone else come from another career path come in and just walk all over us. I really appreciate that. And another thing is that you're not just stepping away. This isn't just for you to get behind a desk and watch from afar. You're
No.
still in it. How many days a week do you work now, or does it alternate?
Three and a half days a week. So I do meetings on Mondays. I do meetings every night. I actually work considerably harder now than I did before. It's a decision I made. People talk about work-life balance. I've spoken about this on other podcasts. I don't think that's a thing for me. I am 150% dedicated to what I do professionally. I love both sides of it. So Mondays I do meetings all day long. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursday, all day I see patients. Fridays I see patients till 2. And then at night I'm doing what we call business development meetings. So I'm meeting surgeons that we want to partner with, or I'm meeting, just as before I hung up with you, I met a young woman who's finishing her residency, interviewing her for a position. I do that a lot. Of course, I still go out with dentists who refer me patients and vendors. And last night I was at this, the opening. So there's always something. And then I'd like to see my children from time to time. That's the most important thing, although to them sometimes it might not feel that way, but it's absolutely the most important thing. So, weekends and nights, that's what I'm doing. You
Once a
know,
month, you'll see the kids once a
yeah,
month,
well,
maybe.
every now and then. I saw both my daughters last weekend. That was nice. And my little one's home. She's still home in high school, so that's good.
Okay, gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha, gotcha.
My big one's in college. She's a sophomore at
And now,
Michigan.
wait. Oh, Michigan, Michigan.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Very nice. How many are in
yeah.
college?
Sorry,
How many in college?
I have two daughters, one in college, one in high school.
Oh,
I have
two, and then
two
one's
children. No, no, no,
what?
two children, two, both of which are daughters, and one's in college, one's in high school.
Where the one in high school? Where's she looking to go to school?
Maybe Syracuse. I went to Syracuse undergrad, so we went up there. My big one flew, surprised us all in Syracuse, and my little one loved it. So we'll see. Q's. I mean, she's killing it in high school. So I don't know. I don't know. We'll see what she wants to do. I mean, I'm
Sounds like she takes after you.
well. Now she's smarter than I am, and yeah, she's also cuter. So
So maybe Syracuse.
yeah,
Do either
yeah.
of them like dentistry at all?
No, not at all. My big one is she's a psych major, mental health or law, actually, either one. And my little one is all about fashion. So we'll see what goes on. But they're both amazing together and in their own right, and it's special. So it's good stuff.
Did you steer them away at all, or?
Not at all. Not at all.
Oh,
I mean,
okay, okay.
maybe they were steered away by the fact that I was not around that much. You know, I was working all the time. Um, listen, you find a lot of people whose parents are in healthcare end up not in healthcare because they see
Mhm.
the grind and all of that. They end up usually in finance, but
It's so true.
yeah,
It's so true.
they do. But I don't think my kids will be in finance. Although you never know. I don't know. For me, I really believe oral maxillofacial surgery is the best job I could have. I love it. I love working with my hands. I love working with people. I love the mental challenge. I love being able to build a business around it. I love it all. I love it all. I mean, I'm very lucky to have found it.
Yeah, and now, I mean, so it's still the work-life balance, like you said. Yeah, you're still going Monday through Friday hard. So you're really in the clinic 3 to 3.5 days a week, but you are on. It sounds like from the get-go,
Yep.
sunrise to
Yep.
past sundown, because you're doing
Yep.
meetings at the end of the days. Now, my question with that is because I'm noticing this with residency. Not to talk about residency, I don't want to go there, but
No,
the
we could talk.
work-life balance difference. I feel like, and maybe this motivates you if you agree, is that now you're kind of working more for you, for your patients, for the practice. You're building relationships with other dentists, other oral surgeons, meeting someone like the resident you said you interviewed with prior, versus in the hospital setting residency. I feel like you're constantly working for the hospital and kind of getting pulled from other things, whether it be studying. Have you found that it's translated to a better aspect when you started working for yourself?
Yeah, well, listen, I think residency is a time that you really only appreciate when you could look back at it. Um, you guys, your generation is a lot more introspective than I think that maybe we were. I don't know why that is, but you really are. And so maybe you're seeing the benefit that you can derive by the things that you're doing now. But when I was a resident, I was angry. I was frustrated. I was you know, I was not very happy day to day, um, and I vowed like so. I trained. You may know this, but I don't know that everybody does. I went to NYU for dental school. I trained at Kings County Hospital, which is kind of the epicenter of interpersonal violence in 1999. Right. So 1999, if you were going to um, be in some sort of physical altercation, you probably would be brought to either Bellevue, or Kings County. So if you're in Manhattan, you're going to Bellevue. If you're in Brooklyn, you're going to Kings County. And so we saw a lot of angry patients, and I think it kind of rubbed off on us, and it was a difficult thing. And I think, like I didn't, my eyes were open to a lot of things. And I was a young kid. I finished training. I was 29 years old. I finished training. I was 29. I went 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of dental school, 4 years of residency, straight. So I really was immature. And, again, I was not worldly. I didn't travel the world. You weren't exposed to all kinds of things and different ways of thinking. I at least wasn't. And so, yeah, I mean, I was embittered when I was in residency, and I came out, and it took me a little while to kind of lose that and become more of like a an empathetic human being. And I'm happy that I did because it's carried me pretty far. But at that time, you know, yeah, residency's tough. it's tough. Even though, and if you ask people in my generation, will say you guys are soft because you like you take all this vacation, all this kind of stuff. But it's still you're busting your ass, and you're not completely appreciated, and you're like you have a lot of headwinds in every conversation you have, whether it's with a patient or the staff that's there to help you, but has been in that situation 5 times as long as you have, and like maybe aren't as responsive as you would like them to be at the time.
Mhm.
And so it's it's a tough role to be in, but it prepares you for really difficult things ahead. And life gets better. I mean, you've heard me say that too, probably.
Mhm.
Like life just keeps getting better. At 50, I can't imagine how much better it's going to get from here. So my back hurts more, I'm fatter, but other than that, like I feel pretty good.
That's all that matters, right? That you
Yeah,
feel good.
yeah.
And I mean, you've been making so much, maybe milestones you're hitting here. I mean, now, how many practices? So you said down to 9 now because you
So we
were
have,
up.
well, 9 Riverside. There are 16 locations within Max. We have 25 surgeons, and part of that is we pride ourselves. We have a lot of diversity among our surgeons, and of course our whole team. That's a huge thing for us, for me in particular. We have women, we have people from different cultures and backgrounds, and for me that's a really special thing, because I talk about the fact that we all have these different perspectives and different skill sets, like complementary skill sets that we have, but we're all focused on the same thing. But the fact is that we also bring diversity of thought from our different experiences in life, and talk about the fact that look, I'm a kid from Long Island, right? So my entire life has been Long Island, New York City, Syracuse, Jersey. Like, come on, like there's not much, it's
Not a big
pretty
range
straightforward,
over here.
right? Not a lot. I mean, I've traveled now that I've gotten older, but I mean, as an example, we talk again about like our generation versus my generation versus yours. Like, we didn't really travel the world until we were older, right? You guys, and this is a debatable concept. It's like, who has it right? Like, bust your ass, do what you got to do, earn it for all those years, not enjoy your life, and then like finally get to a point where you can enjoy your life, or enjoy all along to some degree. Obviously, you're busting your butt. There's no question about it. But like, I think maybe your generation has it a little bit better. That like maybe live a little bit for today. Maybe you could do a little
A little more work.
more, yeah. But like a little bit for today also is definitely a good thing. I think that to some degree it's probably somewhere between our generations what the right answer is, if there is such a thing.
True.
Yeah.
I see what you mean by that. I definitely see what you mean by that. As far as one thing I actually want to ask you personally, as far as Max goes, are you only doing practices? You're recruiting surgeons to come in to practices? Are you buying the real estate underneath? Are you just doing the offices and the business?
Okay, so Max as an organization partners with practices. We're actually looking specifically for market leaders, progressive practices. We're not looking to acquire like retiring guys. When I was buying practices as Riverside, we were buying practices. Kind of the model was I would find a surgeon at the end of, or close to the end of mostly his, but his or her career. And they had generally a good reputation, but maybe there was a knock. Maybe their office was antiquated, or there wasn't enough technology, or maybe they weren't marketing, or whatever it was. We'd find a young surgeon that fit in that proper practice, and we would update the space. We'd put technology into it. We'd market it, and we could build that practice that way. Um, Now we're looking for practices that are partner practices. So we need people who are just as determined to take this profession to the next space, right? We know
Mm.
what's happening. There's consolidation going on in oral maxillofacial surgery, and you could either be like on like there are DSO has this like negative connotation, corporate dentistry negative connotation, whatever it is, but it's all the organization is all about the people. There are corporations that are really made up of like good people, good culture, and great places to work. Like Riverside Oral Surgery is an NJ best place to work. Best. That's not, we didn't vote for that. That's voted on by our team members, right? So
Right.
I think that when we look for people, we look for the right people, the right type of not I think that's what we're doing. We're looking for the right type of people. So yeah, I mean that's kind of what we're doing now.
And I know you're a man of vision.
Yeah.
As far as where we're going 5, 10, 20 years perhaps, and maybe you haven't thought through the whole roadmap yet, but just maybe to shed some insight, because I'm really I want to know.
Yeah. I do think there's going to be further consolidation in oral surgery. I think that you're going to see, like anything, that the strong brands will rise. And I think that in certain markets, like the New York market, and I consider New Jersey part of the New York market, where you have a very sophisticated healthcare client, patient, shopper of the user of healthcare, there is always going to be room for um, other entrants, other people coming into the market, right? But at the
Hmm.
same time, it becomes more and more expensive. A lot of young guys, men and women, coming out with a ton of debt, right? Both undergraduate debt, dental school debt, medical school debt, and then of course with high interest rates and like buying homes and things like that. It's just things are very expensive. So you guys are commanding a lot of money right out of residency. And if you and deservedly so. And you're coming out of residency, and if you think about it from a business owner's perspective, to pay somebody what you want and what you deserve, it not only is your salary, but it's the cost of supporting you and all of the
Mm,
fringe benefits and all of those things. It becomes a pretty heavy ask for a private practice doctor to hire a young, qualified, especially the most talented surgeons coming out, right? If
right.
you're coming out, you feel very positively about yourself. In order to get you to work with me, we got to pay you, right? So,
Hmm.
in order to pay you, we also have to pay other people to support you. And that's a heavy lift for a single practice. It just is. And they may not have the patience to feed you to justify that. And then they end up kind of falling off. So, what I think ends up happening is I think you're going to have strong brands rise to the top. Larger group practices are absolutely going to be kind of the standard. It's already happened. You see very few single practitioners out there. Um, but I do think that you're going to see a continuation of this process. It happened in healthcare, medical healthcare. I think to the detriment of healthcare. But my overall vision, and again, you say I'm a visionary, and I appreciate, I'm a vision guy. Sorry, I'm
Oh
not a
yeah.
visionary.
We
But
all
like,
know it. We all know it.
I,
Yeah.
I mean, so for me, I my vision, big picture vision, more than the practical vision of Max, is to redefine the way that large scale healthcare is seen, more than just oral surgery. Again, I think management service organizations, DSOs, corporate dentistry, it's seen in a very negative light. And I think that's just because of what's come before. I believe wholeheartedly there's an opportunity to change the way that this is seen. And we have to lead by example. It has to be led by the doctors. It has to be focused on patient care and outcomes and doing the right thing every single time, to the point that you
Mm,
can. And a lot of the decisions you make in practice management are counter to what would be the right thing by a dollars and cents perspective, right? It's impossible to measure the ROI on good relationships within the community. But I can tell
right.
you
Right.
definitively that there's a tremendous ROI in being immersed in the community that you serve and giving back to the community that you serve, and you know just doing the right thing. There are things that you can measure, and there are things that are, they call them intangible, but they're,
Yeah.
you just can't really 100% understand it. And to a finance guy, that's a challenging concept. It's abstract. I think part of being a surgeon, or like say not a finance guy, is that we are a little creative. Or I mean, at least I see myself as a little bit more of a. I think I have the science piece, but
Hmm.
I'm a little bit of an artist in the way that I see things. Like I don't necessarily, I can't always measure why I would do something. A lot of it is intuitive. A lot of it is just gut, which is the same word, different word, same concept.
Good. Good.
But basically, I just feel like you know redefining where we're going is what I'm trying to do. So you say like, what do I see in the future? I see me succeeding in redefining the way large scale healthcare is seen. I mean, it's lofty, and it's maybe a little bit narcissistic, but it's what I want to do.
Well, I mean, if you lead by intention and the gut feeling, and you're trying to redefine it basically in light of the provider and the patient first, you're putting the patient and the provider first.
That's right.
And that's how you protect that, by putting the provider, the healthcare, the dentists or oral surgeons in this case, at the top. Who's your co-CEO? You said co-CEOs.
Our co-CEO is a guy named Jeff Ward. Jeff Ward. So the investors in Max that we partnered with are two different private equity firms. One is called Med Equity. They're a boutique healthcare private equity firm out of Boston.
Mhm.
Jeff Ward is one of the partners there. He is my co-CEO. So I'm the CEO on clinical, business development, marketing, things that are more qualitative, and he is the CEO. The people who to answer to him, let's say, are finance, RCM, which is RCM. Some people know this, some people don't. Revenue cycle management, which in most private practices is called billing or insurance processing or whatever, but the real term for it is revenue cycle management, and also like business operations. And so we actually, it works beautifully, because the fact is that a lot of private equity guys, and I'll be ripping all private equity guys, a lot of private equity guys are very, very smart IQ guys. They're very analytical, and they see things that I didn't even conceive of when I was running my practice. But Jeff Ward is both a unbelievably smart finance guy, but also has a really high EQ, understands people. He's been an operator. He works very, very well with me. He knows what he does extremely well. I know what I do extremely well. He trusts that I'm going to make the proper decisions. I know he's going to make the proper decisions. And so and plus we have an amazing team around us. It's not just us. We have a COO, a guy named Jeff DeBellis, who has an amazing history. Started out as a physical therapist, so he's a clinician. He's a deliverer of care. Started his own practice, built it to 3, sold it to a large PT, private equity backed physical therapy group, and came out of clinical and started becoming their director of operations for New Jersey, and grew this company tremendously. We hired him before we had any outside investment. We have a chief people officer, a woman named Susan Coe, who is kind of like the head of strategy for HR and development and education. We do a lot of internal development of our team and our surgeons. And she comes from GW Health, so George Washington Healthcare. And then we have a CFO, a guy named Paul Olson, who's got a ton of experience. So he's like my age, 50, unbelievably intelligent, like oddly so. Like he understands finance like very few that I've come across. And so I don't mean he's odd. I mean his understanding of finance is oddly amazing. And then we've got a team of people who've come from Riverside, from Oral Surgery Group, from Coastal Oral Surgery, which are the larger practices that are part of our group. And it's been great. It's been a ride, and we got a
You
lot
said
going on.
Coastal Oral Surgery? That was the
Coastal
group that the 6 partners in that group that you want to combine and bring into
No,
Max?
that was Oral Surgery Group. So Rich Stern, who was a former chief resident at NYU, who took out my wisdom teeth when I was an NYU dental school 4th year.
That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
So Rich is, I guess he's the managing partner of that group. It was started by a guy named Dr. Engel. Dr. Engel's son, who's now in his early 60s, but functionally is 35. His name's Phil Engel. He's there. Rich and Mike Stern and a couple of other people that are exceptional surgeons. There's 6 people, 3 offices. They're great. And then we have another practice that we partner with called Coastal Oral Surgery, that was started by a guy named John Feeney and a couple of other surgeons. John is a giant in oral surgery in New Jersey and on the national stage. And his son Sean Feeney is Feeney Pizza in who's also partners with Missy Robbins and Missy and Lilia and whatever.
No
So
way.
yeah. So Sean, his son, is like an awesome dude. He's got a place in Williamsburg and a place that the pizza is off the charts. He does a white slice and he does a tomato slice. It's great. So go check out Feeney Pizza in Williamsburg.
Feeney
It's
Pizza. How do I spell Feeney?
it's Feeney is the last name, but it's Fini. Fini, like Fini. That's how he
Okay.
pronounces it. I mean, that's how he spells it. Dude, it's crazy good. It's crazy good. The tomato pie. Get the tomato slice. Trust me.
Feeney Pizza. All right. All right.
Yeah,
I'm sure
yeah,
Peter Rekowicz watches. He's one of the co-residents. He loves going to Brooklyn for pizza. So we'll have
yeah.
to. You said Williamsburg?
It's in Williamsburg. Yeah, I think it's on Bedford. I'm not positive, but it's worth the trip. And if you're ever out in Amagansett, go there too.
Oh, they're out in Amagansett?
Yeah, yeah. That's
Oh my God,
awesome.
I love Amagansett. I grew up going there. One of my
Did you?
grandparents, yeah, they had a house on the water out there, and they sold it 2000 something, and we've
Oh
just
my
been
God, that's such a
every
shame.
holiday.
Amagansett, great. We go there. We've been going there for 10, 15 years, and we love it. Amagansett actually is probably my like people like the Hamptons. The Hamptons. Amagansett, like downshift, not crazy,
It's a
greatness.
little
I
bit
love it out there.
quieter.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is. I
it's got a
love it.
cute little town area with the strip, the ice cream parlor.
Yep,
You think
yep.
you're gonna get a house out there? You have a house out there?
Maybe we'll see. I don't have a house
Oh,
out there yet.
oh, okay. Oh, I
Yeah, we'll
didn't
see.
want
We'll see. We'll
to.
see. But I don't know if you remember, there's a place out there called Astro Pizza, which is
Yeah.
yeah. So that's where Finney is now. And he took that space.
Okay, so he took that over. So he's
Yeah,
bopping back in between the New York area, out in Amagansett.
yeah,
Got
yeah,
it. Got it.
yeah.
I'm a lactose intolerant. I have to bring my lactate, but we're working on
You
it.
don't,
We're
no, you
working on
don't. The tomato pie is zero cheese. I'm telling you, you go, you get the tomato pie. There's these crunchies on it, maybe a little Mike's hot oil, hot honey. It's delicious. It's delicious.
it.
Like
No
you should go there.
cheese.
You should get off with me now. Get in a car, go down. Well, an Uber, and get down there.
I might have to. I
Yeah,
just might have to. How about
yeah.
you coming?
So, uh,
I'll order the Uber.
maybe. Nah, not tonight. Not tonight.
Let's. How much time do you have? I want to make sure that we cover a few more things.
I think we have plenty of time. I really do. I don't think that there's any reason. Wait, what do I have? Give
Sweet.
me. I'll tell you in 2 seconds. Uh, yeah, I have plenty of time. I'm good.
So I saw you wore the Daytona over there, and is that the baby blue dial?
Yeah, yeah. I guess your boys would go like this, whatever. Yeah, yeah.
So the Daytona, I mean, you got to get on a wait list for that. How did you? Was there a wait? Did you just say, "I want it now"? Is there a
Uh,
story behind it? I gotta know. I gotta know. I'm a big watch guy too. We talked about this last year.
yeah. So I have some friends I've been buying watches for a very long time. I started out small like everybody does and should, and as you grow, you have more means, you have deeper relationships, and those relationships yield access, and that access gives me the ability to, when my number is called, get get a piece that I might want. I mean, that's basically what it comes down to. I have a fair number of watches. I started out, like I said, when I was young, and it was all just kind of like my passion for watches grew, and of course my taste for certain things grew as I was able to do more. Um, there's no real story to this watch. It suffice to say that I love it. I love it. But the thing about me, like anything I do, is I buy things that I like and I wear them or I use them. I'm not a collector for the sake of collecting, whether it's wine or watches or cars or anything. I use my stuff. I wore this all day. I wear other watches that are pretty significant when just because I, I love them, and so that's what I do.
I mean, all your photos. Let's be honest. You're wearing the Patek, so today was
Yeah.
a Rolex day, huh?
Yeah, well, I was blue scrubs, so blue scrubs yields like the blue face. Yeah,
So you do it to match
it
the
depends.
scrubs.
Yeah, you wouldn't see. Well, yeah. So this has a blue dial and a brown bezel, and so it's not something that I would wear with the black scrubs necessarily. Uh, but my 5980 is gray face with the red highlight, black
Mm.
kind of stainless steel. So that goes with black or blue. But I don't know. Today I wanted to wear this. Sometimes I'll wear the Batman with it, or the Batgirl with this that I have. Um, I have a bunch, I have a number of different watches that I wear, but it's always a metal watch to work. That's
Of
the fact.
course, of
Yeah, yeah,
course.
yeah.
Number one favorite, like your all time. James Bond watch, let's say, going to work. This is Dr. Auerbach at his prime.
Yeah,
Which
I
one?
mean,
Which one do you pick? You only get one of your whole collection.
yeah, I mean the 5980. That's what I wear. I mean, I wear that every
So
day.
is it, yeah.
It's my favorite watch, and it's probably my best watch. It's definitely my best watch. And I love it. I mean, I wear it. I've been multiple sporting events, multiple concerts, multiple, you know, I don't want to say fights, but let's call it scuffles with buddies. Like, like I'll wear that watch, at any time I play sports. Whatever I'm doing, I'm wearing that watch. And so it's probably not the best for the watch. It's probably not going to help the resale, but there will never be a resale.
There's not going to be a
So,
resale, so who
right,
cares?
right. That's my point. That's exactly my point. I don't buy things to hold on to them. Again, cars, wine, watches, it's all to enjoy.
I was talking about it with my buddies the other day, where it's like a lot of people now, they're buying watches and they're looking at what the resale value is. They're like, oh, don't get that Rolex. That's gonna depreciate. It's like,
Right,
but you're wearing to wear it, right? You've been
right,
eyeing that up for how many, 7 years. You're gonna buy that, now you're gonna resell it in 2 years. What
right.
is that? What do you
You
do?
know
You
what
sit
though?
on a watch for a while?
I've only sold one watch once in my entire career. I've only sold one watch once. I had uh, a white gold day date with a blue face that was a gorgeous watch, but I didn't have the emotional connection to it. And so when I had the opportunity to buy this, I actually sold that. And
Mm,
so that is, that's the only watch I've sold. I don't sell things. Maybe I guess to some degree of a detriment. I mean, I have old watches that probably aren't worth much that I probably could sell, but I don't sell things. I don't look to buy. The last handful of years, and this is actually a little bit of a kind of an unfortunate reality for people your age. The last couple of years has not been really representative of like normal life, right? Everything was
mm.
appreciating. You look at what happened with crypto and NFTs and watches, secondary watch market, and housing prices, low interest rates. You could buy shit, you could borrow, things were different. People talk about how high interest rates are now. When I bought my first house, which was not the first abode I bought, but it was the first home I bought. Um, it was 2006, and my mortgage was like 7%. It was what it is now. And everyone talks
Mm.
about how high interest rates were. But for when my parents were buying their home in the 1970s, and again, we're talking about a different time, but I mean, everything repeats itself. Interest rates were in the teens. They were
Mm.
very, very high. You can go and buy a CD at and get 14%, but your mortgage rate might have been 17%. I mean, it was crazy. Nowadays, mortgage rates are 7% or even more in some cases if your credit's not so great. And then you
Yeah,
have, you can go and put money in a money market and get 5%. Before 2 years ago, you couldn't put your money in a bank. You're getting like a percentage of a percentage, and
right,
and
right.
other weird stuff was appreciating, and like sneakers, like all these high school kids who were selling sneakers right on StockX.
Mm.
They were buying and they had amassed these sneaker collections with this hope of, and you know how many kids are holding sneakers right now that are
A
worth shit.
lot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they're worth shit because there was this concept, and actually it's not my idea, although it is an idea of mine. um, of like Warren Buffett says that like you don't invest in a business hoping that someone will pay more for it later, right? You invest in something, and this is actually a principle of
To
Jeff
hold it.
Ward, the guy who's my co-CEO. You're not buying a business in hopes to arbitrage it, right? That in hopes that someone's going to pay more for it than you buy it. You buy a business understanding that you could end up holding that business for a long time,
Mm.
and it's got to make money. And so it's the same concept as make money in a business is a metaphorically getting value out of what it is that you have, driving the car, drinking the wine, wearing the watch, whatever it is. I know I've used those three examples. That's what it is.
Mm. That's right. Jeff, right? You said his name is. Is
Yeah.
he who you met back at Syracuse? You said that you had a buddy from Syracuse who went kind of like a finance direction. This was last year when we spoke.
No.
Was that him?
No. I said Syracuse. I might have been talking about a high school buddy of mine I'm not going to name, but he's like a
Yeah.
very well known guy in finance. And so no. I mean,
different. Yeah.
Cuse, I mean, I have a lot of friends from Cuse who are, successful people, thankfully for them.
Oh, so Jeff was in the
No,
connection
no, no.
from Sarah.
Jeff is a guy we met through this process of trying to find investors who would believe in us and give us the latitude that we needed. And he, I mean, he's proven himself. That when you go through these business dealings, and now I've done a bunch of, they don't always go as smoothly. There's a lot of emotions at different times,
Mm.
and I always say that whenever I go into a deal with anybody, buy side, sell side, whatever it is, like things will come up where you will feel hurt by a document or a lag in communication or whatever it is, and you have to remember that like everyone's like shooting for the same thing, and that even though it might be painful at the moment, you get through it and it ultimately works out if it's intended to in the best possible way. So Jeff was a guy, his whole organization were people, I said, like, they were men of their word. I know that may not be the right thing to say anymore, but they're like, they're men of their word. They said it, and the stuff happens the right way, or the way that they say it's going to happen. It's not always like that, and I feel very fortunate to have them on my team.
Is actually another question. One of my buddies, actually similar maybe in a respect, is also in PE and stuff, and he was kind of telling me how there's like a 5-year cycle where funds kind of you invest and then they close out. Is there kind of like a similar situation with that
Yeah.
side where you're
So that's kind of the when from my understanding. So this is my understanding of it. With I would say I'm a little bit more knowledgeable than probably the average oral surgeon, but there's levels well beyond me. My understanding is that what these guys generally do is their investment thesis is for an X number of year period. I mean, I know specifically what ours is. I'm not going to specifically speak to that, but but yeah, generally about 5 years, and there is a goal, however much they plan on getting to, and it's based on they pose that to their investors. These are private equity funds that
mm-hmm.
have either you know pension plans or private rich guys or family offices or um, like college endowments or whatever it is that invest in their funds, and they say, listen, we're gonna raise a fund. It's going to be $500 million, and we're going to turn it into a 2x, a 3x, a 4x, a 5x, or whatever it is. So, and they have to return that capital to their investors, of course. Uh, Otherwise, they lose their reputation. And so, yeah, the goal of these situations is to build it. But the difference between, and I say this all the time, the difference between partnering with private equity as an oral surgeon or even as a general dentist or any healthcare provider is you are not just making a widget. I have friends in the frozen food business, and if they're in a situation where they're going to be acquired, then the acquiring company comes in. It doesn't really matter so much if they're so happy with the deal or they're not happy with the deal, right? If I'm unhappy with the deal and how things are going, that's not going to be good, right? So it's a really different kind of experience. A lot of people have a lot of fear with the private equity concept, like what does it really mean that everyone's out to get me and get you and whatever it is. But it's a cooperation. Well, if you're with the right people, it's a cooperation. Like you guys, a collaboration. You guys are they're dependent on us. We're dependent on them. We all have the same shares. We all want to grow this thing, and we all want to, get to this next point, right? But at the same time, we as the surgeons, it's our reputation. If you think about it, financially, whatever, wherever I am in my life, for me, at my point in my life, my the equity in my reputation as being a person, a man of my word, a man who's providing good surgery, doing good outcomes, treating people well. Like my legacy is now coming into my brain as I'm
Mm-hmm.
hitting this age where I'm thinking about that. Like this is not gonna fail on my watch. This is going to be a very successful outcome for everybody involved. And because it's me, like it's as much as it's not me, it's the whole team. I'm here talking about it. I'm here, living it day to day. This will not fail on my watch. This will be very successful.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to be. If you want legacy, you're already known as the guy. You got to stay the guy. You
Got
got
to
to
stay
stay
the
the guy,
guy.
Dr.
Yeah,
Auerbach.
yeah, yeah.
Now, with PE though, I mean, there's, it vests and then it expires, if you will, the fund changes. But you were saying that you're maybe not buying, you used to be buying practices for Riverside, right?
Yeah,
With an
yeah.
older surgeon and then you bring a newer surgeon in. Now you're saying you're buying and bringing on younger surgeons. So right now, I'm just wondering, because right now they technically be protected, right? They're under you, they're under the visionary, the surgeon. But as sometimes with private equity backing and the investors want their money after a certain amount of period, it sells and you're selling maybe a group, maybe a batch of practices. Can those young surgeons that you're bringing in, are they still protected necessarily based on where they're going? What if it's not, owned by a surgeon in that next group?
Right.
Maybe
Yeah.
this isn't it. Maybe you're just trying to buy up more practices in bulk, and then you're like shaving that little off the top of each of the practices to make a tiny bit of profit, but by a large amount of quantity. That's, but I don't think that would be the.
Yeah. No. So it doesn't really work so much like that. It's actually equivalent
Hmm.
to what we were doing just in a bigger scheme, right? So like for instance, um, the largest practice that I bought by footprint before I had any outside investment, it was done through I was being financed by TD Bank. They were a great lender to me. They did it for many years. Interest rates were low, access to capital was easy, and we were profitable. So they were happy to loan me the money to buy practices. Um, and so my partner Sung and I were doing that, and we did that. The biggest one we did was 3 offices. And so those 3 offices are acquired by Riverside Oral Surgery. At the time, we were converting them all to Riverside Oral Surgeries, which we did in this case, and
Hmm.
they are now part of Riverside Oral Surgery, as Riverside Oral Surgery Group, Coastal Oral Surgery, and others now are part of this MAX Surgical Specialty Management. MAX Surgical Specialty Management, at some point in the future, likely will have other investors. The finance guys behind it are other investors, but the organization is still intact as an organization. Now, granted, I can't speak to what's 100% going to happen, but in our charter as Max, um, the clinical advisory board is independent and autonomous as it relates to X, Y, and Z thousands of things. And so, I mean, it's part of the legal documentation, it's part of the
Hmm.
operating agreement, it's part of the LLC agreement, it's part of it. And so, I don't want to be. I don't want to speak with the naivete of like, of course it's going to be the same. I don't. I don't know. And I say that, and kind of that's maybe part of the beauty of me is I really am very transparently honest about stuff like that, or maybe it's dumb. Maybe I should be more sophisticated and try to bullshit everybody. I believe because I still believe in that concept that the surgeons ultimately, if all the surgeons walked out tomorrow, there's no business. There's
Hmm.
zero business. So you have to keep the surgeons happy, right? You got to do right by the surgeons. So if the surgeons are unhappy, this is the thing. It's
Hmm.
like when we speak to people about like partnering with us, everybody's all concerned. Like, but I've been able to go to my kids' basketball games or whatever it is. I want to still be able to do that. I don't want anyone to tell me how many patients I need to see or what my schedule needs to be or whatever. That's kind of a common thread of concern that established
Yeah.
surgeons have. And
Yeah.
I will tell you, no one says that. There's no one looking and like saying you can't go take the afternoon or work 4 days that week. No one cares about that kind of stuff. The only thing I could do is just be me and say no one cares. Just like I could be me and say it's not going to happen because ultimately the surgeons are the product, are the talent, are like it can't, it really just can't happen. You can't have pissed off people providing the care. You can't. Like you need
Right.
to make those people happy. And you treat, I'm not saying it's like a
Hmm.
contrived thing, make them happy so they produce. It's a fact. It's like my team is so good at providing service to the patients and the referring doctors because we treat them well. Because they're
Hmm.
they're they're motivated not by money. They're motivated because every day they come to work and they're treated like human beings and they get love and there's humor and there's family and there's, I mean, that's why people are treat people well. And I think the same thing would be the case. Again, it might be naive, pie in the sky, maybe because I'm so limited in my scope of just New York and Long Island and New Jersey. But at the same time, like I'm not too concerned about it. I'm really not.
Yeah, the one thing is we were talking about, these young surgeons coming out with so much debt. They might have to take a job that they're not necessarily happy in. I just maybe, hypothetically, and then they kind of get leveraged in where now they're getting the paycheck, they're paying back the loans, they just bought a house, they got two kids on the way,
Right.
kid on the way, whatever, and then they might not be happy, but they can't leave. So there does kind of become. I mean,
Yes and no. I
it's
mean,
hypothetical.
yeah, no. It's real. I mean, it's hypothetical in the sense that that's a hypothetical example, but it's real. I mean, the fact is that you have, yes, people have real debt and real responsibility. And I mean, again, from my position, it may be easier to say this, um, but I don't know if we're talking about the same thing. But when I was thinking about who I was going to partner with in this financial situation, I went and I visited my friend at his house in East Hampton. He's got a beachfront in East Hampton. And I'm literally sitting on the beach with him. And I was talking about, do I go with this guy? Do I go with this guy? I don't know who to go with. And he was very clear about it. And this is a guy who's, very, very successful. He's very clear. He's like, it's all about the people. And I've been talking about that a little bit through these types of events.
Mm.
It really is all about the people. Talk about like you're going to sell your business for some stupid number or some stupid number minus $1 million, which after taxes is really a stupid number minus $500,000. You divide it up and you give it up or whatever. What's that when you're thinking about what that is? I know that this comes out horribly, like obviously whatever, but like
No, not
it,
at all. I'll
it's
follow. Yeah.
it's the money is so secondary. It's what does your life look like after the fact? So I feel like a lot of young people, you can go and work at you know any one of 100 different places that are going to pay you a stupid amount of money. You really could go make a stupid amount of money next year. But like, do you really want to just go in schlepping teeth here, schlepping teeth there, running around and kind of being
No,
a slave to like that kind of
no,
thing?
not
Or,
at all.
that's not what you
No,
want. You want, I would think if I were coming out, I'm not going to put it on you. I would want to go to a place where I'm
you're
working in a
coming out.
that's today. But I would be, you could, whatever. So if I were leaving residency at this point, I would say that I would be looking. I mean, maybe this is a little self-serving. I'd be looking for an environment where there's mentorship and collaboration among different surgeons who have different subspecialties, and you get together and you learn from one another and you grow, and it's like a almost like a club you want to be in, and like that. That's much more desirable.
Oh yeah.
Even if frankly, and I'm not suggesting this, but even if frankly you're making you know 50 or $100,000 less than you could. When I was starting Riverside Oral Surgery, I was working in 9 different practices. I was working in the Bronx and upstate New York and down in South Jersey, and I was running around. I started Riverside. I have Lisa who like she was holding the cell phone, and I would run up here and do whatever I had to do, pretend I was here, the whole thing. And realistically, it was backbreaking. It was not something that was enjoyable to me to do at all. I didn't like it at all. I made a very nice living. I mean, frankly, a living that I could probably continue to live on today happily, but it was definitely not a good lifestyle. And I get people have loans, they're young, maybe you're not attached, maybe, whatever. You can do that and run around for a couple of years, but very quickly you burn out from that and you want to kind of have a home, settle, plant roots. I'm not talking about family, though, that too. You want to plant roots and develop a reputation, build your story. When I was 35 years old, I started Riverside. I was 33 years old. I had no clue what was going to happen with it. I was trying to build. I coined this optimal patient experience each and every time. That has been redefined 1,000 times. It's been elevated. It's changed with technology and what patients expect and all of that. But I wanted to build the best possible oral surgery practice,
Mm.
and I think I did that. I mean, I really do think that we provide exceptional care. Forget Max, which also is exceptional. But what we were able to do as far as delivering care, it is great, and it continues. There's nothing since we've done the deal. There's nothing that has changed as it relates to that. Maybe the phone tree is a little more complicated, frankly, but other than that, there's really I'm still using whatever implant everyone is, whatever implant, whatever bone graft. We don't use the same like I use Straumann. These guys use Zimmer or ZimV. These guys use Nobel. No one cares. No one is like it's all about delivery of great care.
Right, right, right. And I mean, of course, it still is Max, but you were focused on a Riverside. Riverside set the foundation for Max. I mean, that's where
Yeah.
it really sprouted, right?
Yes.
Two quick questions as far as that goes. What age did you have your first daughter at? Because you said 33 was about the age when you started Riverside. And then the other question was when you were running around for those between 29 and 33, in order to gain some cash, right? You said you're working like 9 different offices. You're probably working 7 days a week. Did
Right.
you need that capital that you were making then to kind of start Riverside? Or what you're recommending is even fresh out of the gates, take a little bit less off the salary to get into that environment for mentorship, for learning, for the optimal practice experience that ultimately in residency we're waiting for.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
So when I started, I when I started out, I came out of residency. Again, I was at Kings County. I came out of residency. I worked for immediately for two of my attendings, a guy named Andre Stein and another guy named David Blank. They practiced on 34th Street, Park and Lex. I lived in the city. I thought I was gonna. I thought I was like, well, what's better than being a Manhattan oral maxillofacial surgeon? I'm gonna like live this fancy life. Like this was like this kind of my thought process. I worked there. They were good to me. They gave me a lot of latitude. They gave me a lot of support. But it really wasn't the right place for me. So I started working part time for a guy in New Jersey in Teaneck, and he quickly um, was basically giving me more. Giving me, I was seeing more patients and earning more in about a day and a half a week than I was in my full time job with these two guys. And the day that they offered me partnership, which was they were true to their word, they offered me partnership a year after I started. I basically it wasn't by design, but I told them that I'm going to be leaving. I'm going to move to New Jersey, set up my family in New Jersey, and I started working full time for this other guy in New Jersey. And like many people, and I won't name the names, but many people, um, as associates, you're promised a lot of things, and you know, you're sold kind of I don't want to say a bill of goods, but a lot of things are told to you that don't necessarily come to fruition, and that happened to me. So I'm very, very, very sensitive to that. So much so that it's probably been to my detriment from a financial perspective because I generally kind of give away because I don't want to ever be I don't want to ever have misled anybody ever. So for me, I was kind of I don't want to say I'm misled, but because I don't, things just didn't work out the way that they should have worked out or that I perceived, which while very stressful for me in 2007, turned out to be the best possible thing for me professionally
Mm.
because it set me on my own path. So that's really when I started working in those 9 different offices. So I was in a position. So I had moved out to Jersey. My second daughter was born. My first daughter was born when I was 30.
Okay.
It was a different time, though. It really was a different time. I got married. I was 26 years old to a girl that my wife now that I met her at Syracuse. I didn't start dating her till I was in dental school, but she was still at Syracuse at the time. And we were married for a few years, probably 4 or 5 years before we had kids. And my first daughter was born in the city. We lived in the city for 3 years there, and then we moved out to Jersey. So in 2007, February, I left that position that I was in, had my second daughter, and moved into my new home in New Jersey. So it was a highly anxiety provoking time for me, but it turned out to be the best thing. And so it's kind of been a theme in my life. A lot of things have happened to me where a perceived failure or a perceived huge setback has yielded a tremendous step forward. And so I am thankful for those times. And again, like residency, you can only look at it in hindsight. I'm thankful for the times that were tough because they were absolutely transformative for me. And that's been part of my story.
You were saying some people weren't true to their word. Those weren't your attendings. Were I mean,
No, those guys
you
were
don't
true to
want
my
to.
those guys. They
Oh,
came they delivered as promised is what I was saying. They came out and they offered me partnership. That they offered me a partnership. It just wasn't the right situation for me. I felt that I could do more. I actually took a position in New Jersey uh, with this guy. Um, and I did not take a minimum. I just worked on. I believe in myself enough that I want X% of everything I do, and
mm.
he agreed to it. And for years, it was great. For 2.5 years, it was a great situation. I was earning a lot of money. The practice grew tremendously. I developed a really good reputation there. Um, But he did not think that he was. Let's just say that sometimes you can be around people who kind of take a little bit of the spotlight, and if your ego isn't strong enough, then it could be intimidating to you,
Right.
and so it's I think if I read it psychologically, that's probably what it was. And again, fortunately, I was able to start my own practice, and it, he was. I say this, I speak about this a lot. Like for me, you have to kind of manufacture a chip on your shoulder a lot. Like I like, no one believes in me, whatever it is. Like, this is how I've driven myself to become
Hmm.
more successful. And he was like, to prove to him, like, what, you promise, you whatever. I don't need you. I'm going to do it on my own. Um, and frankly, I don't even think about him in any competitive way anymore. I think of him. I only wish him well. I've seen him many, many times. Good for his family and his life, and I really do wish him well. At that time, I was angry, embittered. I literally was. I set out to build this practice to, you know, show him like I don't need him,
Clean it up.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, and it worked out.
What
It's working
what
out.
was that percentage that you asked him for? If I can ask, if I can ask.
I think at the time I wanted just 45% of every single thing that I did. And I will tell you, now looking at it. So when you work in this is just a nuts and bolts thing. When you're working in a
Yeah,
general
yeah,
dental
please.
practice, working for 50% is appropriate, right? So you should,
Hmm.
if you're going to go take out teeth in a general dentist office, you should get 50%. You should get 50% because of the fact that they're not going to keep that stuff in their office unless you're doing it, and so you deserve that. It's all found money to them, right? I mean, that's
Hmm.
basically what it comes down to. But if you're working in an oral surgery practice, you're being fed the patients. So there's overhead, there's staffing, there's cost of materials, there's all kinds of things that figure into it. So, something in the 30s or something like that is more of an appropriate percentage. Maybe 40, maybe, but not really.
Hmm.
But if you're thinking about what I did, was I said I don't want any. I don't know if it was 45. That's what my memory is,
Sure.
but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it was 45%. And I was like, I don't want anything guaranteed, not even a dollar. I mean, listen, I had the ability to have seen as a part-time guy what that looked like, so I knew I was going to do better than even any guarantee would have given me. I believed in myself, and I saw what was happening in terms of referring doctors asking for me and patients coming back to me, and all of this kind of stuff. Um, but it was a good situation. I mean, I was earning a very good living at a young age, and it was good. As far as starting my own practice, I went out and I took a loan. I went to this company called Matsko at the time. I don't even know if it's still around. Guy believed in me. Very few dental practices fail, so
Mm. Mm.
there's a willingness to loan. I looked at, different Bank of America. There were a couple of different programs at the time, but I went with this company called Matsko. Again, I don't know if it's still around. And and I took a loan. I refied it eventually, and then when I bought my second practice, third, and then we worked with TD. They were very, very, very good to me. Um, and again, money was very cheap. We were borrowing money at 3.5% buying practices. I mean, it was,
Woo.
yeah, it was easier, much easier. It's much more difficult now. It is. The cost of
Mm.
money is significant. The cost to build practices is
Oh,
significantly more. First practice I built, is where I'm sitting right now. So, 1,500 square feet, 3 ops, a consult room, a kitchen, a recovery room, front desk area, a couple of bathrooms. I don't know, maybe it cost me, not even including the technology and the cabinetry, which is separate from the build
mm.
cost, maybe $500,000 to build the whole office out. The same office
Really?
now, yeah, yeah. Maybe this office would cost 1.3 or 4 with everything in
Right.
right now.
Right. That sounds. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean and then think about the cost of carrying that capital, 1.3 or 4, even if you're doing interest only for the first, year or whatever it is to make it easier to pay it back. It's tough, and you got to pay a staff. You got to take the. I'm not suggesting you don't do it. I'm not. Just understand that. I actually think that
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
right person can start a practice on their own and be a differentiated source. But it's harder now. It's harder. It definitely is harder, for
It
sure.
does sound hard. Personally,
Yeah.
I'm looking for partners. I want to find the
Yeah.
right group. Just exactly what you said, willing to take a little bit less money in order to get more mentorship and
Right.
kind of get brought into some kind of vision, looking
Yeah.
for a place with actual vision. I've talked with a dozen or so practices, maybe about 11 practices throughout the US, but there's some that don't really have vision there. And I mean,
Yeah.
you understand this, you pick up on it. It's another language that you talk. You know if they're looking for the future or if it's like, okay, it's time to pack it in, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, it's again, it comes down to people. It really does. I mean, there are guys out there, men and women, who are exceptional oral surgeons, but they're when I was a kid, when I came out, it was I'd go into these offices and there was this like sliding thing and the old woman sitting at the front, doctor's office, and like you probably don't even know from this reference, but it was like this old paneling and it was like horrible. It was the most uninviting thing, and literally I'd
the
buy these
fish tank, the
practices.
fish tank.
Yeah, of course. And I'd buy these practices and I'd knock down the walls and it would be open living and everyone was kind and sweet and the lights were brighter and it was just cleaner and we weren't charging like, you know, to use American Express, it's another, 3.5% or this bullshit, like, whatever, because you're pissed at the insurance companies or whatever. Like that whole like angry old school mindset. So you'll probably do people probably let's say 10, 15 years older than me who are looking to bring in the younger guy. But also remember this, and I would say like this would be me advising you. We're already in a position where we have investors, outside investors, but we're running the business. Um, a lot of guys are like, we're still independent, we're proud to be independent, whatever it is. And that is true. I would say many of these people are proud to be independent, like I was. Like we brought on associates before we took on private equity. And when I was talking to them, I was being real. Like, I'm not selling to a DSO. That was my standard answer when I was being asked about it.
Mm,
And we didn't sell to a DSO. We took on outside investors. And frankly, to the associate, it really shouldn't matter. Like, are we taking a loan from a bank or are we backed by private bankers? Like, the
mm,
difference shouldn't be significant in your brain, but you should just understand that, you know, all these guys are being courted, every single one of them, every single
mm,
day. I get people who are not doing their homework. I get an email or a text or a LinkedIn poke or whatever, like, oh, you're interested in selling your practice or whatever it is. I'm like, just look at my thing on LinkedIn. Like, clearly I'm not right now. So, but what I'm saying is, a lot of these guys that when the money is right, they're interested. So just
yeah.
just be aware.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, and I do appreciate you being able to take the time and I wanted to switch gears real quick before we run out of time here. So there were a couple
Sure.
questions, couple fun questions. Also, what's a good wine recommendation that you have? You're more experienced and know wine better than myself. What are you
Uh,
drinking lately?
Um, I drink primarily Italian wine. I'm a Brunello guy, a Super Tuscan guy. I shouldn't even say that. So I drink a lot of vodka now. So I'm trying to drink less wine because less sugar. Like I'm trying to be like
Of course, yeah,
healthier, whatever it is. Um, just so you know, this isn't just like some douchebag $100 bill here. I made a bet with Show that when we get to the bottom of the state that I get the $100 bill. So just if anyone's
Oh,
like
cool,
wondering,
cool.
so
I didn't
that's
even
that.
see that.
Yeah, yeah.
I
So
saw
just
the bloody
because
tooth
I'm
guy
like looking
logo
at
in
this
the.
over my shoulder, I'm like, that seems a little whatever. Um, so so wine. What I like is, like I said, Brunellos, but Brunellos can get to be a little bit expensive. There's a winemaker named Biondi Santi that is a Brunello, but they also make a Rosso that is more, to use a term that might come off as like a little whatever. It's a little more approachable in the concept of like, you know, you can buy it at a normal price and enjoy it and drink it. And so that's I'd say that'd be my recommendation. Or Poggio di
Love
Sotto,
it.
Poggio di Sotto,
Mm-hmm.
or Biondi Santi, and they're both special, and I love them both.
Okay, I'll be trying them out. You're very careful with these words. Like before, you were saying the man kept his word, and then now you're saying the approachable. No, it's interesting because we have to be very conscientious of things
Yeah,
like that these days. Yeah.
it's a thing. It's the unfortunate reality, because a lot of the things that you say you're not intending to say with any negative connotation to it, right? I mean, there's, when I say a
Right.
man of his word, I'm not insinuating that only men can be of their word, but
It's an expression.
it
It's just
is
an
what it
expression.
is. It is what it is. I mean, it's all love and positivity. You know that about me. I hope you know that about me. I hope most of my
Oh yes.
audience knows about that. I just think everyone should just live and let live and enjoy and peace and love and happiness and all that shit. I really do believe that. So that's how I feel.
Is it? And I'm on the same page. I really am. Any beer, or is it only vodka now? A little bit of wine.
Uh, so it's funny. I like beer. I just don't know a lot of different, like a lot of my boys will be like, oh, what IPAs do you have? And I never know the names. So, I like, I like, I tend to be kind of more of a Pilsner guy, which is weak, I suppose.
Mm.
But I like, give me a Miller Lite and I'm happy. Like Miller Lite in a long neck bottle at some like dumpy bar, I'm just as happy as some fancy like esoteric 7.8%. I don't know from that at all. Um, I mean, I can order it and drink it and enjoy it, but no. Yes, for me, it's all seasonal and mood dependent. But I drink vodka on the rocks, typically
Mm-hmm.
Tito's on the rocks,
Of course, it's got to be
with
Tito's. Got to be
either
Tito's.
of course either with an orange wedge or olives. Sometimes I'll drink with olives. Never dirty,
Hmm.
but with olives. Um, I will drink tequila on the rocks. Like I tend to be a reposado on the rocks guy if I'm going to be drinking
Oh
tequila,
wow. Oh my.
um,
Yeah.
or I will drink like a bourbon on the rocks. I don't usually like a mixed drink because I usually find them to be a little too sweet. And whenever I kind of go off the range to get like a mixed drink on a menu or something, I don't care for it. I do like Negronis at the right time, but you can't really only
Okay.
have more than
Okay.
one. I always love
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
idea of ordering a Bloody Mary, but it's too heavy for me, too thick, and you know, it's
Could be
not
like a
as.
meal sometimes.
It
Yeah.
is. It is.
Yeah.
Um, and those are my drinks.
So okay. So all right. Let's go with Miller Lite then. I'm leading into this question. One of the
Oh, okay.
questions was about Guinness, but let's say Miller Lite. How many Miller Lights can you slam in exactly 16 minutes?
I don't know. I
Some of
think
these.
I think if I was being forced to drink, like when I was pledging, I probably
You were in a
could do.
frat?
Yeah, of course.
Of course, of
Yeah,
course
yeah,
you were.
yeah.
I was, uh,
We got kicked off campus my sophomore year, or no, second semester freshman year. That's how shitty it was. We got kicked off
Oof.
campus. Yeah, yeah.
You were in it for like 6 months, not even 6 months.
Yeah, not even. No, it was embarrassing, but it was great. I mean, some of my closest friends are from my house. Probably let's go with today. Probably 16 minutes. Had to six. I could do six. I
In
could do six.
16 minutes? That's
Yeah,
not bad.
yeah, dude. I'm a big guy.
You been
You know.
you've been practicing? What is this?
No, 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 no. But yeah, I could do six. I could probably do six at this point.
That's not bad. I would have
I'll go
to.
shots
Yeah,
of Jaeger. Shots of Jaeger is a different thing. I'll do it
I
still.
could do shots of Jaeger. I would prefer the beer chugging personally. I could do shots of Jaeger though.
How
Oh
many can
man.
you do
Oh,
in 16 minutes?
I would get very close. But so the question I would ask: could you put it in like bigger glasses? I could probably get 8 to 9 in if I if we were to do it, because then you get the fizz out of there a little bit, and then
Yeah,
it'll
yeah,
just
yeah.
go
Well,
down.
Guinness is different. Although the thing about Guinness
Mm,
is those who don't drink
nitrogen.
Guinness, if you drink Guinness, you know Guinness is a relatively light beer taste wise, right?
Mm,
It
mm.
looks heavy, but it's relatively light. So you probably could do. I mean, I got a buddy
Couple
who
more
drinks a lot
Guinness.
of Guinness. Yeah, a lot of Guinness. A lot.
I'm finding a lot of guys in oral surgery are Guinness fans. I didn't realize this. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. This guy's not a
Yeah.
he's a CFO kind of guy. Not my CFO, but he's a
Oh, yeah.
CFO. Yeah, he's a looks good.
Another question we got here, just a few more, and I know how busy you are
I
tonight.
really don't.
How
I have something in a little while. It's a meeting with a doctor whose practice we want to partner with actually. So I got some
Oh,
time.
very nice.
Yeah,
Very good stuff. Okay.
5 minutes,
How
whatever.
do you keep your hair so beautiful amidst all those scrub caps? Did you wear a scrub cap today?
No, I didn't wear a scrub cap today. I used to never wear scrub caps at all. But now I do this. This sometimes I'll wear. This is
What is
from.
this?
It's a
Barbie
beautiful
for
scrub
Barbie?
cap. Sorry, it's Tooth Life Irene. Do you know this woman? She's on Instagram. She's a hygienist. She's a restorative hygienist from Canada, from Toronto.
Hmm. Hmm.
She's brilliant, actually. We've had her speak for us in some of our conferences. She sells these. She makes this Tooth Life Irene, and I think it's like breast cancer awareness kind of
It's
concept.
got to
So
be, right? With the
yeah,
pink.
yeah,
I'm a
yeah,
big
yeah.
fan now.
So
I'm a
that's
big
it.
fan.
I keep it. I go like this a lot. I just go like this a lot. It's just my hair,
Just a little
It's
tuft.
just
Would you ever go back to the man bun?
I would go back to the man bun. I like the. I
No,
have
you
to.
would not.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't lie to me.
I like the man bun. I like the man bun. Um, but I have to lose like another 20 pounds if I want to wear the man bun because you got to look
Ah,
you got to look a certain part. But the man bun was a good time for me. It was not the mullet, but the man bun was a good time for me.
I agree. I agree. The mullet's no good. Believe it or not, I actually just cut my hair yesterday for the first time in 2 years. It was down on my back. So the
You know
man
what?
bun, I'm with you on that.
Yeah,
What was
yeah.
that?
I realized this as I was sitting here with you. It looks good. It definitely looks good.
It's all right. I do the pop it up too. But the man bun, I gotta agree with you. It's like it works for working out. I like to do the man bun runs working out. So I hear you on you. Yeah, the mullet.
No.
The mullet's a no go.
It will come back though.
Oh.
It will. I mean, I won't be there when it comes back, but it will. The mullet will make a return. It almost certainly will, like everything does. It really will.
Last summer, I saw a couple mullets. I'm talking like 13, 14 year olds, though, early
Yeah,
on in high school. It was a
yeah, yeah.
little like the lacrosse guys, maybe baseball too.
I can see that. I can see that. That makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah.
It was in that group. It was in that group. Did you know before dental school you wanted to do oral and maxillofacial
I
surgery?
did not know. I did not know. When I went to dental school, I thought maybe cosmetic dentistry, whatever that meant. Again, I didn't know what that meant, or maybe orthodontics or something like that. I had a very positive experience with my orthodontist growing up, and I was thinking lifestyle more than anything else. My introduction to oral surgery came kind of by chance, like many things that have happened to me. I found myself in the basement clinic. Dr. Carlos was down there running the honors program at the time, and I just like I was drawn to it. I was like I loved it. I met this guy, Dr. Kalman at the time. He was like
Hmm.
4'9" in every direction, the kindest, best old school oral surgeon, and he basically walked me through exodontia. And Carlos is probably the reason why I am an oral surgeon. And so I recently saw her when I saw her at Amos in San Diego,
Right.
um, and yeah, I kind of fell into it, and I had an aptitude for it. I really did. Like I was good at taking out teeth, and a lot of kids in dental school didn't want to. So I was like the traveling exodontist in all the clinics at NYU, and it was good for me. It fits who I am. Like I see a problem, I
Hmm.
want to quickly fix it, and I want to move on from that problem. So it works for me. It works. It really does.
And then I love that. I mean, you could tell. I mean, it's a personality thing. As far as oral surgery go, the exodontia. It seems like you kind of mold your way through the 4 years of dental school into what you just end up doing forever.
Right.
How did the brand? This is another question I got. These were submitted. How did you create the Bloody Tooth Guy brand? And I know we went over this a year ago, but this is for the audience asking. Susan.
Susan. Hey, Susan. So I was sitting here where I'm currently sitting now, and across the way was sitting Sung Cho, my partner, and we were talking just about the fact that that he wasn't on Instagram yet. I have teenage daughters now, late teenage daughters now. So this was 7 years ago that I started in 2015,
Was it
and
only seven? It had to be at least a few. Really? I
February
thought it was like
20th,
13, 14.
2015. So
Really? Wow.
yeah, February. And so I said, if people are interested in seeing, and there were very few oral surgeons, dental pages at all. And maybe, even fewer healthcare. Well, probably more healthcare, I suppose. But Dr. Pimple Popper was a thing who I
Mm.
respected. And I was like, if this woman can pop pimples and people are going to look at it, maybe I could put bloody teeth. So I came up with this name because I have a friend whose daughter, who's still my daughter's best friend, had a stuffed animal named Broken Tail Guy. And it was because the elephant that was the stuffed animal had a broken tail. She called it Broken Tail Guy. And I thought it sounded great. The just the actual, like the I guess it would be a word for it. I just don't know the word. But basically, so I was like, okay, Broken Tail Guy, blah, 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 whatever, Bloody Tooth Guy. And so I put it up there. I started taking pictures of bloody teeth, and it was just, if you look, they're all still on the feed. If you look at some of my early stuff, it's just like the blue mat, drape or
Mm.
whatever with a bloody tooth
Yep.
sitting on it. And as Instagram was looking for content and evolving into video and more artistic stuff, I was there, and they loved me at the time. They were probably feeding me to everybody, and I gained all those followers. I never paid for a follower, not once. Now more followers are not seeing my shit because it's all, content is uh, whatever, it's being blocked out because of
Yeah, it's
sensitive warnings and stuff like that. But that's that's how it happened. And then I missed the TikTok boat because I felt like no one wants to see a big middle-aged dentist dancing, but I didn't realize that I could have turned
you
my
don't have to
audience into
dance.
something. I mean, I can dance fairly well, but like I
Oh,
don't really.
really?
Yeah, I can dance fairly well. I can dance fairly well.
Let's ask Susan.
Does Susan know my dancing techniques?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I can dance fairly well, but the fact is that I missed the TikTok thing, which is okay, and I just don't have the bandwidth to do all those things like the
You do
YouTube
so
and the
much.
I just can't I can't do it so much anymore. I have so much that I
Yeah.
do. Yeah,
Because Instagram's kind of, it makes sense for, you're not, you just took out four wisdom teeth. They're right there on the tray. You set them up, you put a light on it, you take the photo, you post it. But then if you're going to do TikTok, then you got to plan out some
yeah,
kind of video taping, maybe clipping it. So you take out the ums, the ahs. It does take a little bit more
yeah.
work, editing,
And
curating.
actually,
Mm.
my nature is to be able to sit and talk about almost anything at any time. But if you ask me to prepare a talk for anyone, sorry. So, what's I saying? I don't even remember what I was saying now. You screwed with me.
Yeah,
My nature is to be able to talk about shit, but I can never prepare for anything at all, ever.
mhm.
So for me to have a like PowerPoint slides and shit like that, or a
That's not
TikTok,
you. Yeah.
it's just not who I am. And so
Yeah.
actually part of the beauty of being my age is I don't give a shit that it's not me anymore. When people ask me to talk, lecture and stuff like that, I tell them, listen, I'll come and I'll talk about anything. You don't need to prepare me what questions I'm going to get, whatever. I'll just talk about it. Just I need a moderator, or I'll sit on a panel or something like that, but I can't possibly give a talk. It's just not who I am.
Why haven't you started a podcast? This is the perfect thing for you because you're a TV personality. You are, and then you're great. You're articulate. Maybe not TikTok, maybe like a YouTube channel, podcast. But then when you have time to do this
When can
stuff,
I do that? When can I do this? Is an odd moment that I have this. There was a break in my schedule, and I was like, okay, that's good that I have a break. I mean, typically, I just hung up with someone to do this, and then now I have 2 minutes. I have 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Yeah, yeah,
Well. While we're still here,
yeah,
I also wanted to thank Megan. I mean, we've been playing this for a month and a half, 2 months now, and
yeah.
Megan has been fantastic all over the
She's
place.
she's
She's
awesome.
one of your OGs, right?
She's been with us a long time. She came from LVMH. She was in Bulgari. She's great. She's exceptional at what she does. Um, she's involved in like like talent acquisition, if you will, right? Surgeon recruitment, and
Mm-hmm.
so she is unbelievably caring and honest and knowledgeable and energetic and capable, and she's got a ton of amazing qualities, and I'm lucky to have her for sure.
On the phone call, that I had with her. I could pick that up right away. I mean,
Yeah.
she is energetic. She's super enthusiastic. She is a team player.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and I can't thank her enough for setting this up. I really appreciate you being able to take the time too. I'm
Yeah. No.
very grateful. This is, I mean, if you were, I don't know if you could, but if you were to think of yourself while you were back in residency to be able to talk with one of the greats, that it really does mean a lot to me. And I want you to know that.
I appreciate that. I mean, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. And it's great to speak to you. And frankly, like I've said to you, I've been watching you for a while and watching you develop and see. I think you're great. I told you this. I think you're great, and what you do is impressive. And the fact that you are, as committed to it as you are, and you've built your audience, and you're clearly knowledgeable, and the clinical side of things, and the lifestyle side of things, and it's very impressive. So especially given your time constraints as a resident, for real. I mean, I know what that's all about. So yeah, I
Well,
mean,
thank you for that.
I look forward to watching and learning and seeing, for
And
sure.
we'll see where it all goes. Yeah. I will
One
see you
never
soon.
knows. One never knows.
I'll be seeing you soon.
I will see you soon. Maybe, maybe.
Maybe.
Exactly.
All right, Doctor. But thank
All
you
right, man.
again.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Appreciate everything. Take care.
Thank you.